Drive Safe Dave here, along with Doug Marcello. How you doing, Doug?
Doing great. Now that I'm logged in, I'm doing super. Although I got to tell you, I was a little nervous when I started hearing about the Bolshevik Revolution when I logged in and Russian economics. I'm going like, did I get the right show? But no, doing great. Doing great. Thank you.
Hey, we just try to act like we're really smart over here. So we're talking about some historical stuff, and I just wanted to let you know: don't take any charges or don't offer a credit line to Putin these days. His credit line's getting suffered a little bit in the economic community, but we'll get
You,
past that. Doug,
you
it's
know, I
good to
saw
see
a
you.
I saw a large bourse chart show up on my Visa last month, so I'm just thinking, okay. Hey, thank you very much for having me on. I apologize for the delay in the login, but really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, look, I'm excited to talk to you. I got a lot of things to talk to you about today. First of all, introduce yourself and who you're with, because I think it's important, Doug, that we kind of get and who you are and kind of like that.
Doug Marcello, I'm a trucking defense attorney, have defended trucking companies for more than 20 years, an attorney for 40 years. I have my CDL, and I'm also the chief legal officer of Bluewire. Bluewire is a computer service, an analysis that proactively prepares you to defend against potential nuclear verdicts. We analyze data points in order to find vulnerabilities so you can address them ahead of time.
Wow. Very needed, Doug, and exciting information as it comes to. First of all, Doug, tell us why you decided to practice law specifically within the trucking industry.
A number of years ago, I had a case, and I've been doing all kind of law. And this case involved a triaxle. The driver had a fatal accident with a woman who had pulled out in front of him. And it developed from there in terms of what the challenges of operating the vehicles are and how we can proceed and the need to defend it. I believe in the industry. I have served the industry and have greatly appreciated all the industry's done for me. I went to the extent, I think I may have mentioned earlier, getting a CDL so I could better understand the industry. So,
Have you?
I see us as the lifeblood of America that needs protected from those who see us as a profit center, who live on the mantra of hit a truck, get a check, and look at our units as being 18-wheel ATM machines. So my
Absolutely.
mission and Blue Wire's mission is to protect.
So here, let me just jump out here. I got about 9 different areas to go here, but let me ask you a real big question with me. Tort reform needed. How are we going to get it done in these states? I know Texas was able to pass a law recently to help with tort reform in specifically within trucking cases. How are we going to get tort reform done in these states?
Couple things. We are against an immense enemy, the trial lawyers, the folks that you see the billboards out there,
Absolutely.
and they are investing their money in making sure that they stay and keep the laws favorable to them. I think what we need to do, quite frankly, is I think we need a grassroots effort to rise up on this. Look at the people who are in trucking. Look at how many relatives they have. Look at how many logistic effect and the sheer numbers of the individuals out there has got to give a large cry to the politicians. In primaries where 2 to 3% can be a tipping point, organized at a grassroots level in the trucking industry would be a tsunami in those effects.
Yeah, and I find that interesting, and I spoke to the truckload carriers in Washington, and this is really going to be a states issue, this tort reform, outside of a federal issue, which means it has to spread individually within these states to create any success. I hope that Texas has helped create a precedence that can be spread to these other states with their new law in how the cases can be presented.
I believe, and hopefully it has. In talking to folks who are involved in this, be it ATA folks as well as the American Tort Reform Association, the idea and what they're doing is trying to get this one small gain at a time. Let's get an entree here. For example, seatbelt laws. Many states, you can't bring into evidence if you're the defendant that the other person was increase their injuries for not wearing a seatbelt. You can't even bring in the fact that they weren't wearing a seatbelt.
Wow.
This is now starting to go through. And these are the type of things we have to start to chip away at. I think you're right. It's got to be state by state in order for us to get this done. And one of the other big things on this is the panels within each state who create the rules of court. And they're unelected, they're appointed. And where the plaintiff attorneys get their folks appointed to these, it can be a huge gains chambers in these states under the radar from what we see.
Yeah, not just out at the law itself, but all of the rules of law that go into effect to make it before to even present the evidence. Great stuff. Let me ask you a quick question. So you brought up something in your opening statement, and that was data points. And you know, the trucking industry has changed dramatically, I believe, since the ELD. We have gathered an immense amount of data, and you're talking data points. So if you would elaborate on that a little bit.
Absolutely. You know, it used to be people think of the trucking as being a mechanical device, but now it's really a data device. And it comes, so much data comes off of it that the people in the trucking company, particularly safety, are drinking from a fire hose in this regard. So what we've got to do is to look, what are the key indicators of that data that can be used for safety? And what we do in Bluewire is look at the key indicators of that data that the plaintiff attorneys try to prey upon in order to detonate a large verdict against a trucking company. You know, in today's ELD world, the keys and hours of service are less the 11 and 14 hours. The ELD will tell you that. But we look at the other data points that may be things that the plaintiff attorneys prey upon, such as personal conveyance time, unassigned time. And those are the things that we have to do. The key is, what is the data you have to a trucking company, and what are the key indicators you have? That's the key in this.
Let me ask you a quick question here, and I know let's talk about forward-facing cameras. I know they play a big part in your ability to defend. Hey, what is your take on forward-facing cameras or any cameras around the truck whatsoever?
You know, I used to, when they first came out 15 years or so ago, I used to think, oh my gosh, that's just one more piece of evidence I'm going to need a proctologist to get back for me. You know?
Absolutely.
But here's the deal. Here's the deal. We get blamed for everything anyhow. So, you know, in terms of those cameras, it gives us a defense. The ancient Greek Archimedes, philosopher, said, give me a place to stand and I can move the world. Well, those cameras are where we can stand to defend our companies. And I got to tell you, I've had cases, not just in accidents, but drivers who were blamed for leaving the scene of an accident. And fortunately, he had a running camera. Another trucker said, you know, I came on this guy left the scene. We have the running camera showing us going through there 5 minutes after it happened. So these cameras are invaluable, particularly the forward-facing cameras.
Absolutely. And I've come to love the forward-facing camera because worst case scenario, they tell the truth, right, Doug? I mean, at worst, they tell the truth. Yeah, at worst, they tell the truth, and at best, they can exonerate you completely 100% of any wrongdoing whatsoever and make it very difficult for them to he said, she said rule, right? I mean, it makes it, right. It because a lot of the times, I've even seen a car go backwards on the freeway and hit a truck, and at first they were blamed for a rear end collision until the officer saw them forward-facing camera.
Exactly.
I mean, it's crazy.
There's this fear out there, well, gee, what if it shows something bad? Well, let's know that now.
Absolutely.
So that we can get this case resolved, because the flip side is we're going to get blamed for that anyhow. So we might as well do it. I had one quick story. They installed one in a truck. It left the garage 2 o'clock in the morning, went a quarter of a mile. First green light it came to, a four-wheeler ran the light, hit it. It was bobtailing a day cab. You could see everything on the camera. 2 days later, the insurance company says, hey, I understand your truck ran a red light. We're calling for subrogation on this. Here's the film. A quarter of a mile it went, and all of a sudden it exonerated itself just because it had that camera.
Wow. And that's important not only for you and your ability to do that. All right, so let's talk about how Bluewire helps First of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about the reptile theory that you encounter in the courtroom that makes it difficult to defend truck drivers.
Plaintiff attorneys had been running into trouble. It had been the juries would be told, look at what's reasonable under the circumstances, and a lot of jurors would go, gee, that driver, I have run into the same thing myself. So what they said, we got to flip the script here. We got to make it not so much about the accident, but about the company. We got to put the company on trial. And what we want to do, what we need to do, is to show that what that company is doing is a threat to the safety of individuals. That's how it gets its name. That the reptiles have progressed over history and survived by protecting the community, deciding what's safe for them. So what they'll do is they'll try to take it so that it is not just about the accident. The accident happens, but here's what you need to do, and the ultimate payoff for them is the payoff. The only way you'll get the company to correct this systemic failure is by hitting them with a large verdict. That's the reptile theory in short.
How do you defend against it?
Well, for too long, we have, and everybody that's going to a conference for the last 13 years since it came out has heard about reptile depositions and motions. Those are tactics. The reptile theory is a strategic attack. What we do at Bluewire is provide a strategic defense, and it's taken right from the pages of the book that is the reptile theory. Number one, the reptile theory itself tells us, and they tell the plaintiff attorneys, this isn't going to work if your case isn't legitimate. This isn't going to work if it's just an accident. It's a one-off. And it's not going to work if there's nothing there to change. What we do is we do an identification, 250 data points, find your vulnerabilities ahead of time so that you can then begin to address those vulnerabilities. Even if you haven't totally corrected them, you can tell the jury and the plaintiff attorney, hey, wait a minute. We don't need a verdict to tell us what our problems are or our failures. We not only know them, we have corrected them, or we're in the process of correcting them. That's where we're at on this.
I tell you, how important is it for trucking companies, and I know it, and we can all say it's very important, but how important is it that they not only involve themselves in safety, but they go above and beyond the minimum requirements?
Incredibly vital and helpful to their defense. And that's one of the things that we did with Bluewire. We've heard from the ironically named FAST Act in 2015 that the Congress told the FMCSA to start a program called Beyond Compliance. Well, we're still waiting for it.
We are.
So, and what we did when we looked at it, and we said, well, wait a minute, this was going to be a privately run program anyhow. So
right.
We have developed that program at Bluewire so that not only do we analyze you for vulnerabilities, but we give you credit for what you do beyond compliance. Not just what you do, but also show how much you've spent on it. The idea being, if you are in a lawsuit, you can then show your investment in and commitment to safety to the jury at that.
So let me ask you a question, and I'm just going to go out there, Doug. Bluewire helps create not only the legal defense, but they also help with the way a company is viewed correctly, right, Doug? You actually go out there online and start. I believe I read something about white hat. Why don't you go into that a little bit?
Right. Yeah, we consider ourselves, in effect, what they call in the tech industry white hat hackers. We look for vulnerabilities just like a White House hacker in the tech industry tries to find vulnerabilities in your computer system. Well, what we do is we take that vulnerability score, we take that beyond compliance, and we bring them together for a narrative of your company, the true narrative of the company, not the one the plaintiff's attorneys want to try to spin before a jury in order to get millions of dollars from you. Putting that together, that's how we come up so that you can show what your company really is. The data, the beyond compliance, but also what you do for the community. Our companies are so charitable, our members, drivers are so involved in the community. Let's show the true picture, not the one that is tried to be painted by the plaintiff attorneys.
Yeah, there really is two different images that they create, and I'm glad that we are having a champion in the courtroom that goes out and because we do work hard for the community. We involve ourselves in the day-to-day life. It's important what goes on. I'll tell you, believe it or not, and I know you believe this, Doug, that the trucking industry is the lifeblood of this country, and they're genuinely involved in every aspect of their communities, of the country, and they try to get politically and economically. They try to reinforce great values in the industry, and it's horrible that they're portrayed as these evil entities out there just for a buck.
And shame on us to the extent we don't get our story out there.
Right.
We have a great story to tell. And whether it be by social media, by, programs such as yours or other medium, that we don't get out there the true story of all that they do. We are now back in having the truck driving championships. And unfortunately, I missed ours in Pennsylvania for the first time in years. But if you want to see, you're not going to see a finer group of people than those who are there, not just the drivers, but their families.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just something to behold with the Nationals coming up in Minnesota, I believe, Minneapolis this year.
Yeah, I'll tell you, as we talk about that, there are organizations out there, your state organizations, your trucking associations that are out there in each individual state, and you also have, the different ones. You should be involved. Every trucking company should get involved and should meet and collaborate and become a greater strength than in and of itself. I know we're all very busy and believe me, and I get it, we're all busy, but we're not too busy to help others succeed and also ourselves succeed as a collective force. So let's talk a little bit about Bluewire. I don't want to lose sight of how important their role is. If anybody wants to, before I do that, let's talk about Autonomy. I have a question for you, and this has been a question that I've been trying to figure out. Who's going to hold the responsibility for that when they have a big wreck, right? When that kills somebody, how is that going to be done? And I'm curious. I do think that Autonomy is coming, and I think it's already out there. I think it's being used, but how is that? Then it no longer is the driver. It's the who's. I guess the question is, Doug, who owns the responsibility then?
We're going back to our basic tort principles that we've had for millennia, and we're going to look at what was the cause of the accident, who was responsible for that cause, what was it within the data, was it within the mechanisms of the truck, or was it something the company failed to do in order to put it back out there on the road? So again, depending on those levels, what I think we're 1 through 4, 1 through 5 of different levels of autonomy, it will depend on where the fault will lie on that, who can take the blame. The sad reality in today's world is you're going to see the blame spread across the board, is my concern on that. And now we're just talking more pockets that they're going to go after on that. So a lot of that might be based upon the contractual relationship.
Right.
Hey, here's an autonomous truck. I buy it from you, but who's got the indemnification in there?
Right, exactly.
But it's going to be a great question, let alone, who's going to be responsible for roadsides, how are we going to do all the other issues that are coming on that. So a lot of thinking has to be done.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of barriers that we're going to cross. I think it's coming, and I know it's headed our way. I just not sure all of the answers that are coming. We'll figure them out as we come. All right, let's talk about Bluewire. How important is that we get with you early and not at the last minute?
Yeah, my saying is, and I've said this before when I would talk to companies, drivers meetings, what you do now is evidence. What you do after the accident is backfill. So what you want to do now is like going for your annual physical. You want to start now to get checked up. Have this analysis, know what your vulnerabilities are so you can address them, so that you can take care of them right now. So that proactive strategic defense is what we are looking to provide and what we provide with Bluewire on that.
Yeah, so Bluewire actually will help prior to an accident to help go in and evaluate and come up with maybe solutions, ideas, and to help you going into the future in case. Because you're going to buy insurance, right? You're going to buy it. You have to, right? Why wouldn't you buy legal insurance? Is basically what you're talking about, right?
Exactly. And not only do we identify the vulnerabilities, but we have now, if you look at the list on our website, more than 60 allied providers that we
Wow.
say, look, you need cameras. Here are 3 or 4 companies. We don't recommend one company. We say, here are the folks who have made themselves available to us, have signed agreements with us that you can work with on this. And one of the other things you brought up, insurance, one of the things we're doing now is working with a lot of brokers and particularly captives and risk retention groups, because they have a collective risk.
Right.
So the transparency and the protection of one is the protection of all. And that's what we're looking to provide for protect program, which is geared for insurance companies and brokers on that.
It is a collective. It is a big organization. All right. So if we want to reach out to you or reach out to Bluewire, do they go to bluewire.com, or is there a specific email or phone number that they need to call?
Couple things. Number one, all the information, demo, bluewire.ai.
There you
AI
go.
for artificial intelligence, bluewire.ai. One of the other things is, and you go back to the ATRI report, and we've heard this for years, we don't share information with on the defense side like the plaintiffs do. They have every deposition of a trucking company, this and that. To overcome that, what we've done is to create Bluewire Connect, an online community limited to just trucking people, insurance people, trucking defense attorneys. Go to that bluewire.ai where it says get involved, go there. You can submit, because what we're looking to do is provide a forum that people can exchange ideas to protect and defend our industry.
And you brought something up, do you believe that ultimately in this industry that shippers, receivers are and brokers are at some point, we're all going to ultimately share in this responsibility of what goes out there on the road and the accidents that happens?
To a great extent, they already are. I just sat through depositions a couple of weeks ago of a logistics company who had shipped a load that was involved in an accident. So, the companies that you ship with are going to put you at risk depending on their qualifications. So it's one of the things, again, with Bluewire, by identifying these, we give a score 1 to 100. 100 is the better. The logistics companies, shipping companies can get an idea of what is the quality of those companies in order to protect them as well.
Well, Doug, I do appreciate it, man. I'm telling you that if you have an opportunity, if you want to know what's right and what to do and be prepared, or better prepared, actually, get a hold of Doug or anybody over there at Bluewire. Go to bluewire.ai and find out the information. Get involved. Get in the community to better protect yourself. There's no better time than right now to figure out, because ultimately, I know it's sad, but there's going to be 11 fatalities today out there on the road involved with a big truck. And it may or may not be you, but as you do this over the years, ultimately you will be faced with this most difficult of times. And Bluewire obviously helps to create a better or more successful environment for you to face those times. Doug, I do appreciate it. Before you go, we ask all our guests to state their name, who they are, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that for me, Doug?
Doug Marcello, I'm Chief Legal Officer of Bluewire, and we're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
All right, Doug. Thanks a lot, man. We're going to have you on again soon, because we have a ton more questions for you, and we would like to get this out. We'll also send you a little bit of clip of this when we're done. How's that?
Perfect. Love to do it. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Doug.